domestic vessels to ships that will be sold overseas. In simple terms, that means the government will subsidise the cost of such vessels by 25%. As well, it will remove the 2% duty on imported parts used in such ships. And just as importantly, the government has indicated it will help produce finance packages to compete with overseas yards which currently offer buyers interest as low as 7%. In terms of such assistance, the government is calling for concessions by unions, including the establishment of a single shipbuilding award. A company like Carrington Slipway is currently facing a critical shortage of shipbuilding orders. The assistance plan is more than welcome.
I have the greatest confidence that this package is going to be what we've been looking for, which we've been asking the government for nearly 5 years now, is some ability to meet overseas competition with the same tools that they have, the ability to get out and compete with overseas shipbuilders on the same basis that they have.
What is the most important aspect of the plan, the extension of bounty to vessels for export or the finance packages that apparently are being promised?
Both are about equally as important, Jim. The export bounty is going to be a big help, and we spend a lot of time and money chasing export orders, and this will almost ensure a couple of them that we're working on at the present time. The finance package is very, very important for Australian ship owners to be able to buy from Australia at the same terms that they can obtain ships overseas.
How quickly do you think we might see the results of this plan?
I'm hoping that we will see results on this within a couple of weeks, Jim.
Since it's no longer geared up to build major vessels, the State Dockyard has no ability to take immediate advantage of the government's plan. The yard manager, Jim Kelly, says the assistance package means shipbuilding in Australia is now a whole new ballgame.
This is changing the ballgame to the extent where we must now seriously look at whether building bulk tonnage would be a goer.
Reaching out to sailors through a program called Sail for Heart is a first for the National Heart Foundation. Tomorrow, the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club will be one of 30 yacht clubs throughout New South Wales taking part in the program. The idea is that the club levies each entrant in the various classes $5. The LMYC has around 150 boats competing tomorrow in the club point score from the big Division 1 ocean racers through to the Flying 15, Diamond and Star. Tomorrow, Sail for Heart is another significant move by the National Heart Foundation to involve sport in its fundraising efforts. Tomorrow, however, anything like today, there's little doubt the sailors on Belmont Bay will be more than happy to make the charitable contribution.
In the shadow of the first Bishop of Newcastle, Reverend William Cyril Tone, the Anglican Court has been tactical and tough. The present Bishop, the Right Reverend Alfred Holland, set the tone in his stark address last night. He criticised the government and community approval to back their marriage, expressed the implications of the in vitro fertilisation program, and criticised the sacking of Newcastle. The Bishop also expressed the ordination of women, saying their contribution to the church would be greatly beneficial, and the majority of the 91 clergy and 205 church representatives on hand today voted in favour of the idea. As expected, the Synod also voted to create a Samaritan Foundation. The foundation has been a long time in the planning and is a major reorganisation and expansion of the church's social
The Synod created the Samaritans Foundation and agreed to its setting up because it felt a great need within the community, growing out of the realisation of the high levels of unemployment, especially among young people, a realisation of the growing need for many people for the availability in their own area of social welfare services.
One of The motion
And we
passed
spent just
today
under 40
calls
now.
on the church to look at alcoholism as a treatable disease.
About
The motion
ministry.
asked the church to
Who
look
is
at
to
its
do
own
it?
use of alcohol and the
We have-
employment status of people suffering from alcoholism. Another motion was carried commending the federal
God is
government for its
indeed
recent
calling
efforts
them.
in the area of
But I
nuclear
think
arms
it's wrong
control,
for the
in
church
particular for
to be-
appointing an ambassador for disarmament.
He
The
desires
motion
the
also
good work.
calls for both the Pacific and Indian Oceans to be declared nuclear-free zones, with a view to their eventually becoming zones of peace. Discussions also continue today into the structure and function of the Samaritans Foundation. The new social caring agency for the diocese was explained by the director of the foundation, Father Stephen Williams.
We're first of all going to set up regional resource groups which will coordinate activities in the 3 or 4 regions that we have in the diocese, in the Upper Hunter, in the Manning area, in the Central Coast, and of course in the Lower Hunter.
How will each parish determine which projects they'll undertake?
That'll be very difficult, and it will probably be governed by the available resources. However, every town and locality in our region has desperate problems, and I'm quite sure that in talking to those communities, they will be helping us to see what the real priorities are.
They're away, and what a good even start too. Ashman got away very well out in front from Curtain. Ashman goes to the front, Curtain to go round the outside. Round the corner they come, and a brilliant side there by Ashman. Ashman away here from Stevens.
He took 3 of the 5 rounds and second place in the final. The winner of the final was Neil Ashman from the Cessnock Club, a performance good enough to leave him third in the series. Third in yesterday's final was David Taylor. Bringing up the rear in fourth was the big disappointment of the mixed Graham Baldwin, who going into the final had looked a chance of becoming king of the Hunter. Nevertheless, he finished second in the series.
Then Wiltshire Catholic.
Last night, the Gowrie Street Mall factory scene, a $9.2 million development playing host to the business community. The lead in the complex, though, is the Woolworths supermarket and adjoining variety store, the biggest the company has built in Australia. More than 100 jobs have been created. The complex is being developed by Tennant Holdings, a Perth-based company currently making a major redevelopment.
Yes, well, you'll find a lot. Even if it was cold, we just... I'd also like to express my appreciation to the those most important people, our bankers
of this particular structure here.
By the Shire President, Councillor Neil.
Late one afternoon, on that afternoon, the Shire clerk came to my office and he showed me
on the town square as part of Singleton's retail agreement that will probably be the town's last major retail development for some time. Within the grounds of the Morpeth Conference Centre stands Closeburn, the home of the first Bishop of the Newcastle Diocese, Sir William Tyrrell. There was much debate at which he ascended as to whether he was a saintly man or a rogue, as some suggest, because of a motion to have him declared a saint of the local Anglican Church. The vote was eventually in Bishop Tyrrell's favour. Another controversial motion was to allow women to become priests. It was passed, but will have to be backed up by similar votes in Australia's 27 other Anglican dioceses before women will get their chance. The Synod approved the creation of the Samaritan Foundation, which is a major reorganisation and expansion of the Church's welfare work. Yesterday, the National passed calling for the creation of nuclear-free zones in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and commending the federal government for its efforts towards arms control. Reflecting current concern about drugs, The Senate called upon the church to look at alcoholism as a
just under 40 now. That's one.
That raceway in California, Jay Foreman will be competing against the world's best on October 28th. Established 5 years ago and now known as the Superbikers, the rider can only compete by invitation to the event, which involves road racing, motocross and dirt track. The raceway is composite, an asphalt section and a dirt section with sweepers and jumps. The race carries a purse of $60,000 and well over 30 million people will watch it on TV. 23-year-old Jay Foreman is one of Australia's top dirt track riders. He'll be accompanied to California by Graham Boyd of Norm Fraser Motorcycles, Foreman's sponsor.
Tools are to make yourself competitive for this Superbikers.
Well, so the bike I'll be racing is the same bike as what I race out here all year. It's got the lowered, it's got the different size wheels, different tyres, and the bigger brakes.
And of course you've had an array of title wins recently.
Yeah, last year I won 4 and won the year before.
We've seen these fellas do it on television. You've seen them. Do you really think you can match the speed and the efficiency with which they compete in the Superbikers?
It's going to be hard, but if I can get a good practice with them all week, like the track's open for practice during the week, if I can stay there and practice with them and see where they're fast, well, it's the same bike as I've been riding, so I've just got to try and match them.
We know that Marty Motes, who competed in a recent Superbikers over there, was over here recently and couldn't cope with our conditions. Does that give you heart?
No, not really, because I've seen Marty on the same bikes in like the 6 hour, and Marty he's not really, he's a motocross rider, and it's pretty hard for him to adapt to the different sorts. And in the 6 hour dirt track, he couldn't really adapt to that bike.
And what will it mean for you to win this, perhaps?
Oh, good start next year if I want to go back to America and do a bit of racing, do a season over there. That's what I'd like to do.
Alderman Jack Mundy could be found in his favourite situation at the Newcastle Workers' Club yesterday evening, leaning against the bar, beer at hand, talking readily about his beliefs to the media. Alderman Mundy is a committed Marxist, and in the early 1970s was the New South Wales Secretary of the Builders Labourers Federation. These days he's an independent on the Sydney City Council and says he wants residents to have more of a say in urban planning.
I think that there is not enough participation by citizens groups, resident action groups. I think all too often we have councils elected and then we leave it to the councils, where I believe there's got to be more involvement of ordinary people.
And you'd like to see some halt to the sprawl of cities too, wouldn't you?
I think that most people, most urban planners agree that we cannot just continue to build cities around the motor car. We see Sydney, for example, spreading now almost to the Blue Mountains. If you take it almost up to Katoomba. And some of the horrendous social problems that are caused, particularly with increasing unemployment.
As an alderman on the Sydney City Council, you've made a stand for the rights of the people you represent. How do you regard the sacking of the Newcastle City Council?
It's a very retrograde step to appoint an administrator who's only in Newcastle 2 days a week, who the rest of his 5 days he spends in Bankstown, who has made some notorious comments about there being no need for an elected council. I think that is a very bad happening for the people of this city.
It was obvious to a blind man
accusations that the push to a high-level group is supported by only a minority of Sydney residents were silenced by the 700-strong turnout last night. The meeting was organised by a group of concerned citizens, and it was made clear from the outset that this was a meeting of those who support the high-level option, and that no argument against it would be heard.
Well, the people have had a chance to make up their mind. In fact, the government's made up their mind for them. That's the worst part about this whole exercise. without consulting the people, the government has made up its mind to put a low-level bridge in. Now, we're, as concerned citizens, we want a high-level bridge, and we intend to do something about it.
But you're not giving... A succession speakers reason that a high-level bridge was needed in conjunction with a bypass of the
Swansea will be the only...
Mr.
will be the real
Bill
bottleneck
Caves Beach
between
Progress
Sydney and
Association
Newcastle. And
said
you
the
got to
second
remember the
opening
idea
span
of
bridge
Sydney
would put 4 lanes of traffic through Swansea, destroying
four-lane
spaces
highway
and making it dangerous for residents.
between
The
Sydney and
speakers were
Newcastle.
really
And irrespective of what
and a resolution in favour of a
let's
high-level
not
bridge
accept
was easily
anything
passed.
but an
A motion from the floor was also passed, calling on the Miners Federation, the Old Tom Merger Committee and the CNU to support the bridge campaign. The resolution also called for the Newcastle Trade and Labour Council to use its influence to gain federal funding to build the high-level bridge as a job-creating scheme. Unions will be called upon to withhold labour from any attempt to build a second opening span bridge.
We have to have a high-level bridge. But so many people...
Warship pitched and rolled in a 2-metre swell as it entered the port this morning. The ship with 25 officers and 334 crew is here until Monday to allow the sailors recreational leave. The USS Waddell will be open to the public tomorrow afternoon. Along with the welcoming committee of Australian girls who followed the ship since it first arrived in Perth last month,
they got the
one
nuclear weapons on board.
called for the port to be kept nuclear-free. The USS Waddell is fitted with air-to-air missile and anti-submarine weapons and will go out to Commander Ed Christensen if the ship is carrying nuclear warheads.
That's a question that my country neither will confirm nor deny the presence of any type of nuclear weapons on board any ship or aircraft or any platform.
I don't think time will ever dim the popularity of The Mikado, as the enthusiastic response to the Maitland, Gilbert and Sullivan Society production proved. And it was a well-deserved reception. Director Don McEwen and musical director Twink Story have put together a bright and lively Mikado that was always entertaining and occasionally very impressive indeed. Well, happily, the singing was strong all the way through the ranks, with the magical Brightly Dawns Our Wedding Day being absolutely terrific. But some of the actors could have paid a bit more attention to the spoken word. There was some mumbling and gabbling, which meant that some very funny lines and indeed some very important lines in this extremely convoluted plot just went missing. The actors could have taken a leaf out of the book of director Don McEwen, who also played Nanki Poo. It was terrific to hear him singing again, but he also knows how to deliver a line with great clarity. As well, my favourites were the Three Little Maids, as played by Jenny Hards, Karen Bashford and Susan Williams. Without them, this good production would have been much the poorer for energy and bounce.
It's the 400 16-foot ship pump annual port company Jack. By far, too much way here is once again certain to provide a real spectacle. On this fourth consecutive year by the DAC, record $1,000 prize money is expected to attract more than 16 held on Newcastle Harbour. Entries from each of the State Association's 11 clubs, including state and Australian champions, will be completed. Tomorrow will be a handicap event, while on Sunday the maiden event will start. DHC 400.
Between 1937 and 1957, the Silver City was synonymous with DHC. The aircraft spending much of its life as the personal transport of the company's chief Essington Lewis. Looking over the beautifully restored aircraft today, Newcastle Steelworks Chief Jack Risby mused on some of the momentous decisions which must have been taken in what was effectively Australia's first flying boardroom. Lockwood is now owned on board the old aircraft made an announcement past the time 3-8,
estimating nothing.
Distinctive sound reviving for many memories of the Silver City regular visits to the old Broadmeadow aerodrome.